Today we have this lovely Grundig Majestic cabinet here. It actually does work a little bit. The tuning eye tube even does function a little bit here. You can see that the lines here move in and out when I change the tuning. It's not as bright as it should be though. I'm kind of disappointed. This top here seems like plastic, not glass. They usually made them out of glass, but this seems to be plastic, which is going to be difficult to clean up, I think. The glass ones always look perfect when you clean them. We've got this really cute little tape player here, and when I press start it doesn't seem to do anything. I don't know if it's not connected right now or what. Got some interesting hieroglyphs here. When you press these buttons, colors change here, and I'm not sure what those three symbols mean. I know one of them's play, one of them's record. I don't know what that middle one is. Wow. And got a switch here too. We're gonna have to play with that and get it working. This really cute vintage microphone made by Grundig. Has its own little built-in stand here, so you can set it up and I guess talk into it or record your own music through it or something. I can't wait to see if we can get that working. Of course, we've got a little record player in here too. This looks like it's made for 10-inch records, and we will find out if we can get it to play a 12-inch record. But this is a really nice little auto player here that's also got a feature here to drop a second disc down, or probably just a second disc, so you could play two discs at the same time, or one after the other. And here's the back of the unit, which we're going to be opening up and checking out inside. This is a Grundig Majestic stereo console, SO161Ua. And here's the list of all the tubes. And we have the connection for the phonograph and a tape recorder output. I'm not sure where the tape player feeds in, so we're going to have to see if we can figure something out with that. But it's a beautiful label here in good, very, very good condition. And there's the antenna hookup. So here's the rear right panel removed. Just some speakers in here, and I'm beginning to see why the real player doesn't work, because there is a separate power cord for it, which is not plugged into anything. Well, that's lovely. And there's this funny box here that I suppose connects to the real player to give you access to probably recording and stuff like that. I don't know why it's sideways here and not in the middle, although it looks like somebody tried to plug something in here, so maybe this is where we can actually connect that microphone. I don't know. We'll find out. And then buried in here is the actual radio unit, and if I pull this back cover off, it'll unplug the power here. That's kind of their safety feature, so I just have it kind of strung open. But I can see a connector lying in the middle here, that black thing, which is not hooked up to anything. Not sure if I can get to that. That's an interesting connector. Oh, it's a DIN 5, okay. And that seems to be coming from, yes, that is coming from the real player. And because it's not connected, we're not going to get any signal from it. So that mystery will be easy to fix, I hope. And then finally, in the left panel, which is the right when you're facing backwards, we've got more speakers back here and the record player. So very simple construction here. Guarantee you these caps are bad. This is electrolytic, so we're going to have to replace those potentially. I guess that's probably part of the crossover, so I better replace that. Of course, there's another one over here as well. So we got a little bit of a lay of the land here. We'll see what we can do to spruce this up a bit and get it actually functioning. It's always fun to do a little sleuthing here and try to figure things out. So this is one of the tube retainers, which fell off of one of the tubes here. Looks like probably this guy's the one missing it. These are very dangerous. if the tube is missing, this thing can actually fall inside the metal chassis here and short out hundreds of volts and cause damage, serious damage. Seen it in other consoles where one of those shorted a circuit out and blew up a capacitor and caused a fire. We don't want that. Then in here I discovered a rubber thing, and that is a broken O-ring, or maybe you'd call it a broken belt, which I guarantee you goes on this real player somewhere. So that definitely needs to be fixed, unless they actually fixed it before and just left the broken piece in there. But we're going to have to figure out where that goes. There's a variety of hardware that fell inside of here. I'm not sure if that's from this thing or some kid putting hardware inside. We'll see. And some other damper thing here that looks like some kind of vibration damper made out of rubber that fell out. So we'll see if we can get that put back in too. And some more sleuthing shows some more interesting features here. One is that the lid here, which moves up and down, you can see a nice crack at the top there where stuff easily can fall into this console. So that's kind of a interesting design here, that if you put something on top of the lid and then you open the lid, it will fall all the way in. And another thing that happens is there is this spring which holds the lid on, and it's really noisy. Why is it so noisy? Well, there's a pulley up there, and the cable clearly has fallen off the pulley. You can see it all the way up here, that cable is no longer on the pulley. So we'll have to get our hands way deep in there somehow and fix that pulley as well. Actually, that might not be too hard to fix because it looks like this ferrule here can come right off the spring. So I'll go ahead and fix that right now. Okay, I've got that string back on the pulley way up there, and now we are night and day, nice and quiet. Now if it was up to me, what I would do is put a switch here, maybe a reed switch or something, to turn everything on. That way, when you open the cover all the way, power turns on, you got music. As soon as you lift the cover up, music stops, and as you close the lid, everything's off. So that would be a really convenient thing to add to this if it was mine. Now I think some people might want these to be as original as possible, in which case I probably wouldn't do that. But if I was going to modernize this, that would be part number one that I would do, is put a switch on that door. That would be so cool. The other thing I might do is, you're wondering what this white string is here. What in the world is that for? There's two of them coming out each side. Well, they're tied to a switch back here. And if you pull that string, it switches the position of the switch. And what is that switch? I would love to tell you, but I can't see it from my vantage point. So there's something here that says norm and aux. Anybody's guess what norm and aux are? Aux usually means auxiliary, but auxiliary what? Where do I connect it? Maybe that is something to do with the source that they decided to add in here, because there are two RCA jacks, which are highly unusual. So maybe this is clearly an afterfit, and we'll have to see if we can get that to function and so find out whether that works or doesn't work. But that's a really strange way to do it, and I'd like to understand why they put a switch here, because if we can do it without a switch, that makes this a lot more fun. And this whole back panel actually detaches here, and I was wondering why the FM was a little weak. This is why it's weak. Got a broken connection here. That's no problem to fix. We'll solder that right back on. I'll probably end up having to pull this whole thing out, but I have an RCA jack hooked up to the input here, and that goes down to my meter, which I have on resistance, and I have it on 20 mega ohms now, and I got nothing, which means it's either an open circuit or they've got a capacitor, the first thing here, and I did not see numbers jump, so it's probably a small capacitor. But let's flip this from aux to norm, and still no change here. So it might be a really small capacitor coupling it, which is good because we might be able to forego the switch and simply add the various inputs together. We'll see. Okay, still have my RCA cable connected, and I turned the power on, and I have the switch set to norm right now. Again, this is not a switch that came with this unit, so this is an add-on. Touching that thing, I get nothing, but when I flip it to aux, lo and behold, I hear a buzz. And so that means when this is flipped to aux, then you can use the RCA inputs. And the question is, why in the world would you put a switch inside here, which is so hard to get to, when you might be able to do it a simpler way? And so I guess I'll pull this thing apart and see how they got that wired up, and see if we can come up with something simpler that doesn't need a switch. Because that would be really cool to have RCA inputs here that might go to a Bluetooth thing, for example, so you can play music through your phone. That would be awesome. Okay, just managed to pull the unit out here from inside. So now it is no longer there. And I remembered why this old equipment is unbelievably painful and why you probably always had to have a technician to repair anything. Light bulbs. These are burned out. How the heck do you get these light bulbs repaired? Well, this is the only way. You pull the entire thing out. This takes like, you know, an hour to change a light bulb. It's unbelievable. Anyway, let's try to get this thing cleaned up. We've got a lot of cleaning to do on this front cover here. And lots of switches to clean, lots of pots to try to fix, some pieces to oil to make sure that they're turning okay, and maybe even some capacitors to redo. And I want to see what that little norm aux switch does. So let's take a look at all that. Okay, I already put that tube retainer back on. One of the first things I'm going to do is pull out the EM84 here. I can figure out how they wanted that to happen. There we go. It's the old Telefunken EM84. It's pretty weak. I've got a new old stock one here. This is made in Yugoslavia. I didn't have a Telefunken one, but let's just put it in there. I think I would, if it was me, I'd rather have a nice bright one than a Telefunken. It wasn't bright, so I'll get this back in. Alignment with these is usually kind of tricky, so we'll have to turn it on and then align it. I did replace both of these light bulbs here already. Example here. So we've got new light bulb to go, two new light bulbs to go. I would like to replace them with LEDs, but I don't have LEDs with that socket right now. And the LED colors are kind of weird anyway, and people might get picky about that. Okay. Okay, we can't really access any switches from, well, I guess we can access some switches from this side. So the switches are here. The question is, where are the contacts? Of course, all the electrical connections are here, so that means the contacts are on the underside. And it's really kind of difficult to get in here. But I do want to just kind of spray this stuff wherever I can. There's some holes in the side here that allow me a little bit of access. Let's see, these pots for bass and treble are pretty much open, and so we want to try to make sure we get these cleaned so that they don't make scratchy noise. Another one down here. Okay, so the nice thing about this unit is it looks like it has been completely recapped. All these yellow capacitors are nice and new. And this monster capacitor here is new, pretty new, 750 microfarads. That's enormous. 330 volts. I don't know why they chose such an enormous value. I think the actual capacitor it came with is 50 microfarads, 2 sections of 50 microfarads. So they chose an incredibly large value here, which they had to replace the rectifier because that would have definitely blown out the original rectifier. There would be an enormous inrush current to charge this huge capacitor here. Apparently this rectifier can handle it, so I guess I'll leave it the way it is. Although I kind of question why they would have done that. But alright, it's done. So there should be a second stage to the capacitor. It looks like they're still using the original capacitor. It's still connected. And I don't like that because I've actually seen these old capacitors fail to a short. And so having the original capacitor still in the circuit is quite a risk. I'm tempted to take it out of the circuit. It's a 3-section capacitor, which is really a pain to unwire. I guess we got lucky maybe and this one dried out and so it's not arcing, and maybe it never will. But we definitely need to we should boost the capacitance across those terminals because they're probably not doing so well. And that just means adding some simple capacitors to ground at a couple hundred volts rating. So we'll probably do that. And anything else in here that we need to handle on this side. Again, I'm really glad that I see a lot of yellow capacitors here because it looks like this thing is probably in pretty good condition sound-wise because of those caps. I'm not seeing any electrolytic ones down here, which is a good. Oh, here's one. I did find an electrolytic capacitor. That one's going to need to be replaced probably, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that out. That's 25 volts and 25 microfarads. So I'll go ahead and replace that now. Still not 100% sure what to do about these RCA inputs. I really want to have a Bluetooth signal come in here. They have this annoying switch which you can't access from the front of the machine. You have to go all the way around back, take off the back panel, and then switch it, which is really stupid. But this thing clearly intercepts the signal coming from the switches here, the main switches, and then goes to this auxiliary switch and lets you select whether you're going to take your main signal or the RCA auxiliary signal. It's an interesting idea, but I really want to find a way to do this without the switch. I'll have to think about that some more. Well, as I feared, this cover is indeed plastic. We'll clean it up, but we got to be careful what we use on it. Can't use Windex probably because it'll damage the plastic. We'll have to be real careful polishing this and cleaning it up. Unfortunately, the foam did cause deterioration, did deteriorate over time and chemically damaged the paint in a couple of spots here where it was touching the foam. So I guess that was not a very not a very good place to put the foam right on the lettering, so that's basically irreparable. But we got it off and we'll be able to clean some more inside, some deep cleaning here if you will. Okay, now we want to get the turntable out, so I'm going to take these wires out. This guy's already loose. Now, I battled with this thing for quite a while. There are 3 screws in here that are holding it down. One of them on this side, can't even really see it here, is in the wood. There's a screw, just a nut way back here that you just can't quite see. Right there. And that one can be released from the turntable by moving it sideways. There's another screw which you can't see again, right up under here, and there's one all the way at the front, and it turns out you have to remove the nuts on that to get it out. So that back one wasn't so hard, but the front one I had to jam my arm all the way in there. I think it's virtually impossible to get it back on. We'll see. It'll take a lot of patience. But once you get those released, you can come to the futuristic looking turntable and pretty much lift it out carefully. I'll do this with two hands, but this is that screw on the top side, which is sort of a T-nut shape, and that goes into a hole here to catch that and hold it down. Now, if you're wondering what these bizarre little plastic things are, they're actually to lock the turntable in place when you're moving the console, and that pushes some springs on the bottom and just pushes the spring into position so that it doesn't let the turntable wiggle up and down too much. We don't really need to play with those right now, I think. So I'll pull that out, got to get it greased up and oiled. Here's the real player. I want to actually turn it on so I can unwind this whole tape and take it off, otherwise it's going to be kind of awkward to remove here. So I've got it plugged in now. If I turn it to one side, I get an M light, which I guess means mono. S might mean stereo. And I get a little bit of a hum. Sounds like a transformer hum. And this really cool tuning eye tube indicator comes on. And hard to see the green there, but it's really nice and bright actually. If I hit start, nothing happens. If I hit rewind, nothing happens. Forward, nothing happens. And I don't know what these things do again. Let's say we had it on that, which might be play, but it's still not doing anything. As I noted before, there is a rubber belt that is broken down there. And so it could be that this thing will not function for two reasons. One, it needs to be oiled, it's a little tight here. And the second is that that belt is broken. And these real players are notorious for not working right. So they are just an awful amount of maintenance to keep them working. So more than likely this thing needs a pretty good overhaul. And we're just going to have to pull it out. It is super heavy. I guess I'm going to have to undo the screws here and open this lid further, because I think I have to lift it straight out. And it's pretty deep actually in there, and it's very heavy. Whew, that was a beast, man. That thing was awful getting it out. But I got the tape deck out, the radio out, and the phono player out, and so now we can start cleaning. It's incredibly dusty and messy in there. We're gonna have to wipe everything down with Furniture Restore, and hopefully that will do something, make it look awesome. Got a lot of work to do here to try to make this thing look nice, but it will look very nice in the end.